You know that moment when someone mistakes your kindness for weakness? When they think your quiet professionalism means you're pushover material? Well, Tyler Davidson made that mistake with me. The CEO's son walked into our Denver office thinking his MBA and family connections meant he understood enterprise software sales better than the woman who'd personally generated $300 million in revenue over 9 years. He fired me on a Tuesday, calling me legacy sales staff, with a dismissive wave of his manicured hand. What Tyler didn't realize was that those contracts he was so confident about weren't just pieces of paper. They were built on relationships, trust, and late-night calls with Fortune 500 executives who knew my voice better than his name. By Friday, his automated systems were crashing, clients were demanding answers, and Daddy was getting very angry phone calls from very important people. Sometimes the best revenge isn't planning something elaborate. Sometimes it's just stepping back and watching someone's arrogance destroy everything you spent years building, then coming back to save it on your own terms. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. My name is Jessica Martinez, and for 9 years, I was the beating heart of Phoenix Software Solutions Enterprise Division. Not the flashiest title, not the corner office, but the person who turned a scrappy Denver startup into a $500 million enterprise software powerhouse. While other sales reps chased quick wins and quarterly bonuses, I was building something different. I was creating partnerships that would last decades. Phoenix Software Solutions occupied 3 floors of a gleaming glass tower in downtown Denver's Tech District, nestled between the Rocky Mountain views and the bustling energy of a city that had become the Silicon Valley of the Rockies. When I first walked through those doors in 2015, we were a 40-person company with big dreams and bigger ambitions. Michael Davidson, our founder and CEO, had this vision of creating custom CRM systems that didn't just manage customer relationships, but transformed how Fortune 500 companies understood their own data. But vision doesn't pay the bills. Revenue does. And that's where I came in. I wasn't your typical enterprise sales director. While my colleagues focused on volume, I focused on value. While they celebrated closing deals, I celebrated building relationships that would generate revenue for years to come. My approach was simple but methodical. I didn't just sell software. I became an indispensable strategic partner to some of the most powerful executives in American business. Take Health Tech Corporation, for example. When I first met their CEO, Patricia Williams, in 2016, she was drowning in disconnected systems that couldn't talk to each other. Their patient data was scattered across 17 different platforms. Their staff was frustrated, and their board was asking uncomfortable questions about efficiency. Most sales reps would have pitched our standard CRM package and hoped for the best. I spent 3 months studying their existing infrastructure, interviewing their department heads, and designing a custom solution that would integrate seamlessly with their current operations. The initial contract was worth $28 million over 5 years. But that was just the beginning. As health tech grew through acquisitions and expansions, they needed additional modules, training programs, and integration services. By 2024, that relationship had generated over $65 million in revenue for Phoenix. More importantly, Patricia Williams had become not just a client, but a trusted advisor who referred us to 3 other healthcare systems. That was my secret weapon. I didn't just sell software. I created advocates. The same pattern repeated across industries. Manufacturing Plus needed a solution that could handle their complex supply chain logistics across 14 countries. I spent 2 weeks in their factories, learning their processes, understanding their pain points, and designing a system that reduced their operational costs by 30%. The CEO, Robert Chen, was so impressed that he joined our advisory board and personally recommended us to 5 other manufacturing companies. Financial Services Group wanted a CRM that could handle their stringent compliance requirements while still being user-friendly enough for their sales teams. I worked directly with their legal department and regulatory compliance officers to ensure every feature met federal banking standards. When other financial institutions heard about their success, they came calling. That single relationship spawned contracts worth over $90 million. But here's what made my approach different from everyone else in the building. I understood that enterprise software sales isn't about the software. It's about the trust. When you're asking a Fortune 500 company to invest millions of dollars and restructure their entire customer management system, they're not buying code. They're buying confidence that you'll be there when things go wrong. They're buying assurance that you understand their industry well enough to anticipate problems before they happen. They're buying a relationship with someone they trust to protect their business. I made myself that person for 23 major enterprise clients. My day didn't start at 9 and end at 5. It started at 6 in the morning with coffee and industry reports, understanding market trends that might affect my clients' businesses. I read trade publications for healthcare, manufacturing, financial services, and retail. I studied quarterly reports, not just for my own company, but for every single one of my client companies. When health tech's stock price dropped because of a negative analyst report about industry-wide reimbursement changes, I called Patricia Williams before the market opened to discuss how our software could help them demonstrate cost efficiencies to their board. That's the kind of relationship that can't be automated. That's the kind of value that can't be replaced by junior sales reps reading scripts. My office was strategically positioned between the main conference room and Michael Davidson's corner office. It wasn't the biggest space, but it was perfectly functional. Awards lined one wall. Not sales awards, though I had plenty of those. These were different. Industry recognition awards from trade associations. Thank you plaques from client companies. A framed letter from the CEO of Manufacturing Plus, thanking me for preventing a data integration disaster that could have cost them millions. A photo from the ribbon-cutting ceremony when Financial Services Group opened their new headquarters, featuring software systems I had personally designed and implemented. But the real treasure was my client database, not the company's CRM system that everyone had access to. My personal relationship management system that I had built over 9 years of careful observation and meticulous note-taking. I knew that Patricia Williams preferred phone calls over emails because she was dyslexic and processed auditory information more efficiently. I knew that Robert Chen always made major decisions on Wednesdays after his weekly golf game with his board chairman. I knew that the chief technology officer at Financial Services Group had a daughter with special needs, and that our training programs needed to accommodate his schedule around her therapy appointments. These weren't just business relationships. They were human connections built on mutual respect, shared goals, and genuine care for each other's success. When clients succeeded, Phoenix succeeded. When Phoenix succeeded, I succeeded. It was a beautiful ecosystem of growth and prosperity that had generated over $300 million in revenue during my tenure. The math was simple, but staggering. Phoenix Software Solutions had total revenue of approximately $500 million from 2015 to 2024. 60% of that revenue came directly from contracts I had personally negotiated, implemented, and maintained. Another 15% came from referrals generated by my satisfied clients. That meant my work was responsible for roughly 3/4 of the company's total success. Michael Davidson knew it. The board knew it. The other sales directors knew it. The administrative staff knew it. The engineers who built our custom solutions knew it because they worked directly with me to ensure every technical specification met my clients' exact requirements. But I never made a big deal about it. I never demanded recognition or threw my weight around. I simply did excellent work, generated extraordinary results, and trusted that my value would be recognized and rewarded appropriately. For 9 years, that approach served me well. My compensation grew steadily. My responsibilities expanded naturally. My influence within the company increased organically as Michael began including me in strategic planning sessions and board presentations. I thought I had built something permanent. I thought my track record spoke for itself. I thought that creating $300 million in value over 9 years had earned me security, respect, and a permanent place in Phoenix Software Solutions' future. I was wrong. Because I had underestimated the power of entitlement. I had underestimated the danger of assumptions, and I had severely underestimated Tyler Davidson's capacity for catastrophic overconfidence. The irony is that I saw him coming. Michael had been talking about succession planning for months. At 62, he was thinking about his legacy and his family's future. Tyler had graduated from Wharton with an MBA in business strategy. He had worked for 2 years at a consulting firm in New York. He had impressive credentials and unlimited confidence in his own abilities. What he didn't have was any understanding of enterprise software sales. What he didn't have was relationships with Fortune 500 executives. What he didn't have was 9 years of hard-earned trust and credibility. But what he did have was a last name. And in family businesses, sometimes that's all that matters. I should have seen the writing on the wall when Michael started bringing Tyler to our quarterly strategy meetings. I should have been more concerned when Tyler began asking detailed questions about our client contracts and sales processes. I should have recognized the threat when he started talking about modernizing our approach and leveraging technology to scale faster. But I made a crucial mistake. I assumed that results would speak louder than relationships. I assumed that $300 million in generated revenue would be enough to secure my position. I assumed that Michael would never allow anyone, even his own son, to destroy something that was working so effectively. I was about to learn that assumptions can be very dangerous things, and that sometimes the biggest threats come from the people who should be your allies. What people saw when they looked at my work was the polished presentation in the boardroom, the signed contracts, and the celebration dinners. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. What they didn't see were the countless hours that happened in the shadows, the intricate web of relationships and processes that made those moments possible. Enterprise software sales isn't glamorous. It's methodical, demanding, and requires a level of dedication that most people simply can't sustain. My typical day started at 5:30 in the morning, not because I had to be in the office early, but because that's when I could catch my international clients before their day ended. Manufacturing Plus had operations across 14 countries, and their chief information officer in Singapore preferred to discuss technical specifications when his Denver counterpart wasn't available to complicate the conversation. I learned to navigate time zones like a flight attendant, keeping multiple world clocks on my phone and scheduling my sleep around quarterly business reviews in Mumbai and board presentations in London. The coffee shop across from our office building knew my order by heart: large dark roast, extra shot, no cream. I'd arrive there by 6:15, laptop open, already 3 emails deep into my morning routine. While other professionals were still hitting their snooze buttons, I was reviewing overnight updates from client technical teams, analyzing implementation progress reports, and preparing talking points for the day's client calls. People often asked me how I managed to maintain relationships with 23 major enterprise clients simultaneously. The answer wasn't some revolutionary system or cutting-edge technology. It was old-fashioned attention to detail and genuine care for each client's success. I maintained detailed profiles for every key stakeholder at every client company. Not just their professional information, but the personal details that transformed business relationships into trusted partnerships. Patricia Williams at Health Tech Corporation was passionate about reducing patient wait times, but she was also deeply committed to supporting veteran healthcare initiatives because her brother had served 3 tours in Afghanistan. When I discovered that our software could be customized to prioritize veteran patients for certain services, I spent 2 weeks working with our development team to build that functionality at no additional cost. Patricia didn't ask for it. She didn't even know it was possible. But when I demonstrated the feature during our quarterly review, she literally teared up in the conference room. That's the kind of attention that creates loyalty. That's the kind of service that transforms vendors into strategic partners. Robert Chen at Manufacturing Plus was notorious in our industry for being difficult to work with. Other software companies complained that he demanded impossible timelines and unrealistic customizations. But I took the time to understand why. His company operated on razor-thin profit margins in an increasingly competitive global market. Every day of implementation delay cost them thousands of dollars in operational inefficiencies. Every software malfunction meant production lines sitting idle while workers collected paychecks for doing nothing. So I embedded myself in their world. I spent 2 weeks at their primary manufacturing facility in Ohio, working third shift alongside their quality control teams to understand exactly how they use data in real-time decision-making. I learned that their inventory management system needed to update every 6 minutes, not every 15 minutes like our standard configuration, because their just-in-time supply chain couldn't tolerate longer delays. I discovered that their union contract required certain data to be accessible to floor supervisors, but not to upper management, which meant our user permission settings needed to be far more granular than our typical enterprise deployment. Most sales directors would have told Robert that his requirements were too complex or too expensive to implement. I told him we'd make it work, and then I personally managed the development process to ensure we delivered exactly what he needed. The result was a manufacturing efficiency system so effective that Robert's company became our unofficial showcase site for potential manufacturing clients. But the relationship that truly demonstrated the power of personalized service was Financial Services Group. Their CEO, Margaret Foster, was brilliant but incredibly demanding. She had a reputation for cycling through vendors every 18 months because nobody could meet her exacting standards. When I first met her, she made it clear that she expected our software to integrate seamlessly with their existing compliance monitoring systems, provide real-time reporting capabilities for federal auditors, and maintain banking-grade security protocols while still being intuitive enough for their least tech-savvy employees to use effectively. The technical requirements were challenging enough, but Margaret's communication style made everything more complex. She preferred detailed written reports over verbal updates. She required all technical specifications to be reviewed by both internal and external security consultants. And she insisted on weekly progress meetings that included representatives from every department that would use the software. Most vendors found her process exhausting and inefficient. I found it thorough and professional. Instead of fighting her system, I adapted to it. I created comprehensive weekly reports that included not just progress updates, but also risk assessments, contingency plans, and detailed explanations of how each technical decision aligned with their business objectives. I scheduled separate pre-meetings with department representatives to address their concerns before the main weekly meetings, ensuring that our time with Margaret was focused and productive. The implementation took 14 months instead of the typical 8, but the result was a customer relationship management system so perfectly tailored to their needs that Financial Services Group became our most enthusiastic advocate. Margaret personally called the CEOs of 3 other financial institutions to recommend our services, generating over $40 million in additional revenue. These relationships didn't happen by accident. They were the result of systematic attention to detail, consistent follow-through, and genuine investment in each client's success. But maintaining them required constant vigilance and incredible time investment. My calendar was a masterpiece of precision scheduling. Client calls were color-coded by urgency and relationship status. Green for routine check-ins with stable accounts. Yellow for accounts requiring additional attention due to implementation challenges or organizational changes. Red for accounts facing critical issues that could impact our relationship or their satisfaction with our services. I maintained separate communication channels for different types of interactions with each client. Email for routine updates and documentation. phone calls for urgent issues and personal check-ins, video conferences for technical demonstrations and collaborative problem-solving sessions, in-person meetings for contract negotiations and relationship building. But the real secret to my success wasn't just communication management, it was anticipation. I didn't wait for clients to call with problems. I identified potential issues before they became critical and addressed them proactively. When HealthTech Corporation announced plans to acquire 2 smaller healthcare systems, I immediately began planning how our software could accommodate the integration challenges they would face. When Manufacturing Plus reported supply chain disruptions due to global shipping delays, I worked with our development team to create enhanced inventory forecasting modules that would help them navigate the uncertainty. I read industry publications religiously, not just for general knowledge, but to understand specific challenges my clients might face. Healthcare reimbursement changes affected HealthTech's revenue projections, so I needed to understand how our software could help them demonstrate cost efficiencies to insurance companies. New manufacturing regulations in the automotive industry impacted Manufacturing Plus's compliance requirements, so I researched how our data management systems could streamline their reporting processes. This level of engagement required me to become a semi-expert in multiple industries simultaneously. I understood healthcare data privacy regulations well enough to train HealthTech staff on compliance protocols. I knew manufacturing efficiency metrics well enough to help Manufacturing Plus optimize their production scheduling. I could speak financial services, compliance language fluently enough to represent Phoenix in meetings with federal banking regulators. People often assumed that enterprise software sales was about convincing clients to buy our products. In reality, my job was about becoming so valuable to my clients' operations that they couldn't imagine working with anyone else. I wasn't selling software. I was providing comprehensive business consulting with software implementation as one component of a much larger relationship. This approach required incredible personal investment. I attended my clients' industry conferences, not as a vendor trying to sell services, but as a strategic partner trying to understand emerging trends that might affect their businesses. I maintained relationships with their vendors, contractors, and strategic partners to better understand their complete operational ecosystem. I celebrated their successes and supported them through their challenges. When HealthTech Corporation won a major contract to provide services to 3 new hospital systems, I sent Patricia Williams a congratulatory bottle of champagne and spent the weekend researching how our software could be scaled to accommodate their expanded operations. When Manufacturing Plus faced a major recall due to a supplier quality issue, I worked with their crisis management team to ensure our data systems could support their customer communication and remediation efforts. This wasn't just customer service. This was strategic partnership at the highest level. My clients trusted me with sensitive information about their financial projections, operational challenges, and competitive strategies because they knew I was invested in their success. Not just my commission checks, but perhaps most importantly, I had become the institutional memory for all of these relationships. I knew which clients preferred morning meetings versus afternoon calls. I knew which technical staff members were most influential in implementation decisions. I knew which executives had the authority to approve contract modifications and which ones needed board approval for any changes. I understood the personal dynamics within each client organization. At Financial Services Group, the Chief Technology Officer and the Chief Operating Officer had a long-standing professional rivalry that affected how technology decisions were made. At Manufacturing Plus, the CEO trusted his plant managers more than his corporate staff, which meant successful implementations required buy-in from floor-level supervisors. At HealthTech Corporation, the board was extremely cost-conscious due to industry-wide margin pressures, which meant every proposal needed to demonstrate clear return on investment. This knowledge wasn't documented anywhere. It wasn't in Phoenix's customer relationship management system. It wasn't in our contract files or our technical specifications. It existed only in my experience, my memory, and my personal relationships with the people who made decisions at each client company. I had become the human bridge between Phoenix Software Solutions and $300 million worth of enterprise business. I was the translator who could speak both technical language and executive language. I was the mediator who could navigate personality conflicts and organizational politics. I was the strategist who could anticipate problems and design solutions, and I had absolutely no idea how vulnerable that made me. The first hint that changes were coming arrived on a Thursday morning in March, disguised as routine company communication. Michael Davidson sent an email to all senior staff announcing a strategic planning retreat scheduled for the following month. Nothing unusual about that. Phoenix had been holding quarterly strategy sessions since I joined the company, and they were typically productive discussions about market opportunities, operational improvements, and growth initiatives. But this email was different. Instead of our usual format focusing on departmental reports and collaborative planning, the agenda emphasized succession planning and next-generation leadership development. More concerning was the mention of external perspectives and fresh approaches to traditional challenges. In 9 years of Phoenix strategy retreats, Michael had never used language like that. I should have paid more attention to the subtle shift in his communication style. Michael Davidson was a methodical communicator who chose his words carefully. When he started talking about fresh approaches to traditional challenges, he wasn't making casual observations about business philosophy. He was preparing us for fundamental changes to how Phoenix operated. The retreat was held at a luxury resort outside Denver, which was also unusual. Our previous strategy sessions had been conducted in the office or at nearby conference facilities. The change in venue suggested this meeting was more significant than routine business planning. When I arrived at the resort that Friday morning, I noticed immediately that the attendee list was different from previous retreats. Tyler Davidson was there. I had met Tyler briefly at a few company social events over the years, but he had never participated in strategic business discussions. He was 29 years old, freshly graduated from Wharton with an MBA in business strategy, and had been working for a prestigious consulting firm in New York since graduation. Tall, athletically built, with the kind of polished confidence that comes from Ivy League education and family connections, Tyler commanded attention when he walked into a room. But what struck me most about his presence wasn't his impressive resume or his obvious intelligence. It was the way he looked at our business. During the opening presentations, when department heads were sharing their quarterly results and discussing client feedback, Tyler was taking notes on everything. Not casual notes, but detailed observations about our processes, our client relationships, and our operational efficiency. When my turn came to present the enterprise division results, I shared our standard quarterly metrics. Revenue was up 18% year over year. Client satisfaction scores were at an all-time high. We had successfully renewed 4 major contracts and signed 2 new enterprise clients. Our implementation timelines were consistently meeting or exceeding client expectations. Tyler asked questions I had never heard in a Phoenix strategy meeting. Instead of focusing on client satisfaction or revenue growth, he wanted to understand our scalability metrics and automation opportunities. He asked how many clients I could realistically manage simultaneously and whether our client service model could be systematized for broader implementation. I explained that enterprise software sales was fundamentally relationship-based, that our clients valued personalized attention and customized solutions, and that our success came from treating each client as a unique strategic partnership rather than a standardized transaction. Tyler nodded politely, but I could see in his expression that he viewed my approach as inefficient rather than effective. During the lunch break, I overheard Tyler talking with Amanda Chen, our sales operations manager, about process optimization and scalable growth strategies. He was asking detailed questions about our customer relationship management systems, our sales pipeline tracking, and our client communication protocols. Amanda was enthusiastically sharing information about our internal processes, clearly impressed by Tyler's sophisticated questions and apparent expertise. But what concerned me wasn't Tyler's interest in our operations. It was his assumption that our current approach was somehow inadequate. He spoke about our business model the way a consultant might discuss a client company that needed fundamental restructuring. He used phrases like legacy systems and traditional approaches, with the subtle implication that tradition was synonymous with inefficiency. After lunch, Michael invited Tyler to present his observations about Phoenix's growth opportunities. Tyler had prepared a comprehensive analysis of our business model, complete with PowerPoint slides and detailed recommendations. His presentation was impressive, professionally delivered, and completely disconnected from the reality of how enterprise software sales actually worked. Tyler's analysis focused heavily on scalability and automation. He argued that Phoenix was under-leveraging technology in our sales processes and that we could achieve significant efficiency gains by implementing more standardized client communication systems. He proposed that we could scale our client service capacity by transitioning from personalized account management to systematic client engagement protocols. His recommendations included implementing automated client communication systems, standardizing our sales processes across all enterprise accounts, and reducing our reliance on high-touch relationship management. He suggested that junior sales representatives could handle most client interactions if we provided them with appropriate scripts and protocols. Tyler's presentation was met with enthusiastic responses from several department heads. The operations team loved his efficiency, focus. The technology team was excited about implementing new automation systems. Even some of the sales staff seemed intrigued by the possibility of streamlining their processes. But I felt a growing sense of unease. Tyler's recommendations weren't necessarily wrong from a theoretical business perspective. Automation can improve efficiency. Standardization can reduce costs. Systematic processes can enable growth. But his analysis completely ignored the fundamental nature of enterprise software relationships. Fortune 500 companies don't buy enterprise software systems the way consumers buy smartphones. They're not looking for the cheapest option or the most convenient purchasing process. They're making million-dollar decisions that will affect their operations for years, and they want to work with people they trust implicitly. They want vendors who understand their industry, their challenges, and their specific organizational culture. When Patricia Williams at Health Tech Corporation calls me at 11 o'clock at night because their system is experiencing unexpected performance issues, she's not looking for scripted responses or standardized troubleshooting protocols. She's looking for someone who understands the critical nature of healthcare data management and can coordinate with our technical team to resolve the issue quickly and effectively. When Robert Chen at Manufacturing Plus needs urgent modifications to accommodate a new production line configuration, he's not interested in submitting a formal request through automated systems and waiting for standardized approval processes. He needs someone who can evaluate the technical requirements immediately and expedite the necessary changes. Tyler's efficiency-focused approach would eliminate exactly the kind of personalized responsiveness that made our enterprise clients loyal advocates. But I could see that his presentation was resonating with people who didn't have direct client relationship responsibilities. During the question and answer session, I raised concerns about maintaining client satisfaction during any transition to more automated systems. Tyler responded with confidence and authority, explaining that modern clients expect efficient, technology-driven interactions, and that relationship-based sales models were increasingly outdated in today's business environment. He cited studies showing that buyers preferred self-service options and automated communication systems. He referenced successful companies that had grown rapidly by implementing scalable sales processes. He spoke eloquently about the competitive advantages of operational efficiency and the importance of positioning Phoenix for next-level growth. His arguments were persuasive, especially to an audience that didn't have daily interaction with enterprise clients. But I knew he was fundamentally misunderstanding our market. The studies he cited focused on consumer markets or small business sales, not enterprise software implementations. The successful companies he referenced operated in completely different industries with entirely different customer expectations. I tried to explain the unique characteristics of enterprise software sales, but Tyler had clearly done his homework and was prepared for objections. He acknowledged that relationship building was important, but argued that relationships could be maintained more efficiently through systematic processes rather than individual attention. He suggested that our clients would appreciate more consistent, predictable interactions rather than the variable service quality that inevitably resulted from personality-dependent relationships. Michael Davidson listened to our discussion with thoughtful attention, asking clarifying questions but not indicating his own opinions. As the retreat concluded, he thanked everyone for their contributions and announced that he would be spending the next few weeks reviewing all recommendations and developing a comprehensive plan for Phoenix's next phase of growth. But the real warning sign came during the final session, when Michael announced that Tyler would be joining Phoenix as Director of Strategic Development, effective immediately. Tyler would be responsible for evaluating operational efficiency, opportunities, and developing recommendations for scalable growth initiatives. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the mountain air outside the resort. Tyler wasn't joining Phoenix as a consultant or advisor. He was joining as a decision-maker, with authority to change how we operated. And everything in his presentation suggested that he viewed my approach to enterprise sales as the primary obstacle to Phoenix's growth potential. During the drive back to Denver, I replayed every moment of Tyler's presentation, looking for signs that I had misinterpreted his intentions or misunderstood his recommendations. But the more I analyzed his words, the more convinced I became that Tyler saw Phoenix's future very differently than I did. He envisioned a company that could scale rapidly by standardizing processes and implementing automated systems. I knew we had built our success on customized solutions and personalized relationships. He saw efficiency and growth potential. I saw the destruction of everything that made Phoenix special to our enterprise clients. That weekend, I spent hours reviewing our client contracts, relationship histories, and satisfaction surveys, looking for evidence that might contradict Tyler's assumptions about modern business preferences. What I found only reinforced my concerns. Our enterprise clients consistently rated personalized attention and customized solutions as the most important factors in their vendor relationships. They valued responsive communication and flexible problem-solving far more than efficient processes or standardized interactions. When we had surveyed clients about their priorities, relationship quality ranked significantly higher than cost efficiency or automated service options. But I also realized that Tyler's recommendations weren't entirely without merit. Phoenix could potentially serve more clients if we standardized some of our processes. We could possibly reduce costs by implementing automation systems. We might achieve faster growth by scaling our operations more aggressively. The question wasn't whether Tyler's approach could work. The question was whether it would work better than our current model and whether the potential benefits justified the risks of alienating our existing enterprise clients. I spent Sunday evening preparing detailed documentation of our client relationship strategies, including specific examples of how personalized attention had prevented problems, resolved crises, and generated additional revenue. I planned to schedule a meeting with Michael to discuss my concerns about Tyler's recommendations and to present alternative approaches that could achieve growth without compromising client satisfaction. But Monday morning brought an email that changed everything. Michael announced that Tyler would be presenting his strategic development recommendations to the board the following week, and that all department heads should prepare to implement any approved changes immediately. The warning signs were no longer subtle. Change was coming to Phoenix Software Solutions, and I was about to discover just how dramatically Tyler Davidson planned to transform everything I had spent 9 years Building? Tyler Davidson didn't just join Phoenix Software Solutions. He conquered it. Within his first week as Director of Strategic Development, he had scheduled individual meetings with every department head, requested detailed operational reports from all senior staff, and begun conducting what he called efficiency audits of our core business processes. His office was strategically positioned just down the hall from his father's corner suite, and the space quickly became a command center for his transformation initiative. Tyler had installed dual monitors, multiple whiteboards covered with process, flow diagrams, and a coffee machine that cost more than most people's monthly rent. But what really announced his presence was the constant stream of consultants, analysts, and technology vendors who began flowing through Phoenix's offices like members of Tyler's personal army. Tyler approached business with the systematic intensity of a military campaign. Every conversation was purposeful. Every meeting had detailed agendas and specific objectives. Every interaction was designed to gather information, assess efficiency, or advance his strategic initiatives. He carried himself with the confident authority of someone who had never experienced professional failure, and he spoke about business transformation with the evangelical enthusiasm of someone who genuinely believed he could revolutionize everything. But what struck me most about Tyler's management style wasn't his obvious intelligence or his impressive organizational skills. It was his complete certainty that he understood Phoenix's business better than the people who had been successfully running it for years. He didn't ask questions to learn from our experience. He asked questions to identify weaknesses in our current approach. During our first individual meeting, Tyler spent 90 minutes reviewing my enterprise division operations with the methodical thoroughness of an efficiency consultant. He had printed copies of every contract I had negotiated, detailed spreadsheets, analyzing my client communication patterns, and comprehensive reports comparing Phoenix's enterprise sales metrics to industry benchmarks. Tyler began the meeting by acknowledging my impressive track record and strong client relationships, but his tone suggested these were interesting historical facts rather than ongoing business assets. He was more interested in discussing what he called optimization opportunities and scalability challenges in my current approach. He questioned why I maintained such frequent contact with established clients when their contracts were already signed and implemented. He couldn't understand why I attended industry conferences that didn't directly generate immediate sales leads. He was puzzled by the time I invested in understanding my clients' broader business challenges, rather than focusing exclusively on their software needs. When I explained that enterprise relationships required ongoing attention and that client satisfaction was essential for contract renewals and referral generation, Tyler nodded politely but responded with data showing that most software companies achieved acceptable renewal rates through automated account management systems and standardized customer service protocols. Tyler had clearly researched enterprise software sales extensively, and he could cite statistics, case studies, and best practices with impressive authority. But his knowledge was entirely theoretical. He understood the metrics without comprehending the relationships. He could analyze the data without grasping the human dynamics that actually drove enterprise purchasing decisions. During our conversation, Tyler frequently referenced his experience at Sterling Consulting, where he had helped Fortune 500 companies optimize their vendor relationships and streamline their purchasing processes. He spoke with authority about how modern enterprises preferred efficient, technology-driven vendor interactions rather than relationship-dependent sales models. But when I asked specific questions about his direct experience with enterprise software, purchasing decisions, it became clear that Tyler's consulting experience had been entirely from the buyer's perspective. He had helped companies evaluate vendors and negotiate contracts, but he had never been responsible for maintaining long-term client relationships or managing complex software implementations. Tyler understood how to analyze vendor performance from a procurement perspective, but he had no experience with the daily challenges of keeping enterprise clients satisfied over multi-year contract periods. He knew how to evaluate proposals and compare competitive offerings, but he had never had to solve urgent technical problems at midnight or coordinate emergency implementations during critical business periods. This gap in his experience became more apparent as he began implementing his strategic development initiatives. Tyler's first major project was what he called a comprehensive workflow optimization analysis of our enterprise sales processes. He hired an external consulting firm to conduct detailed time studies of my daily activities, mapping every client interaction against specific revenue generation outcomes. The consultants followed me for 2 weeks, documenting how I spent my time and categorizing my activities according to their predetermined efficiency metrics. They timed my phone calls, analyzed my email communications, and measured my travel time against direct revenue results. Their final report identified numerous optimization opportunities in my approach to client relationship management. According to their analysis, I was spending too much time on non-revenue generating activities like industry research, relationship maintenance, and proactive problem solving. They recommended that I focus more exclusively on high-impact sales activities like prospecting new clients and negotiating contract expansions. The consultants suggested that routine client communication could be handled more efficiently through automated systems, that industry research could be outsourced to junior staff members, and that proactive problem-solving was less cost-effective than reactive customer service protocols. Tyler presented their findings with obvious satisfaction, explaining that implementing their recommendations could increase my sales productivity by 35% while reducing my operational costs by 22%. He had charts showing how much more revenue I could generate if I focused exclusively on direct sales activities rather than relationship overhead. But Tyler's analysis completely ignored the interconnected nature of enterprise-client relationships. The industry research that the consultants categorized as non-revenue generating was actually what enabled me to provide the strategic insights that made my clients view Phoenix as a trusted advisor, rather than just another vendor. The relationship maintenance activities they dismissed as inefficient were what prevented small problems from becoming major crises that could destroy client satisfaction. When I tried to explain these dynamics, Tyler listened politely, but responded with data, showing that other software companies achieved strong client satisfaction through standardized customer service protocols. He argued that systematic approaches were more reliable than personality-dependent relationships because they eliminated the variable service quality that inevitably resulted from individual management styles. Tyler's confidence in his analysis was absolute. He spoke about business optimization with the certainty of someone who believed that all problems could be solved through better systems and more efficient processes. He genuinely couldn't understand why I would resist implementing changes that could mathematically improve my performance metrics. But what concerned me most wasn't Tyler's misunderstanding of enterprise relationships. It was his growing influence within Phoenix's leadership structure. Michael Davidson was clearly impressed by Tyler's analytical approach and systematic thinking. Other department heads were enthusiastic about Tyler's efficiency initiatives. Even some of my sales colleagues were intrigued by his promises of reduced workload and increased productivity. Tyler had a gift for making complex business challenges sound simple and making inefficient processes seem obviously problematic. He spoke about transformation with infectious enthusiasm, and he supported every recommendation with compelling data and persuasive analysis. During company meetings, Tyler presented his strategic development initiatives with the polished confidence of a professional consultant. His presentations were visually impressive, logically structured, and filled with specific metrics that demonstrated clear improvement opportunities. He had a talent for identifying genuine inefficiencies in our operations and proposing solutions that sounded both practical and profitable. But Tyler's recommendations consistently prioritized efficiency over effectiveness, standardization over customization, and scalability over quality. He genuinely believed that Phoenix could achieve superior results by implementing more systematic approaches to client service. and he couldn't understand why anyone would prefer less efficient methods when more efficient alternatives were available. Tyler's vision for Phoenix's future was impressive in scope and ambitious in scale. He wanted to transform us from a mid-sized enterprise software company into a major industry player through aggressive growth initiatives and operational optimization. He had detailed plans for expanding our client base, streamlining our service, delivery, and scaling our operations to handle significantly larger volumes of business. His strategic development initiative included comprehensive proposals for automated client communication systems, standardized sales processes, systematic service delivery protocols, and scalable account management structures. Tyler had researched successful software companies that had achieved rapid growth through similar transformation initiatives, and he was confident that Phoenix could replicate their success. But everything in Tyler's plan required fundamental changes to how we operated, and most of his recommendations directly contradicted the personalized, relationship-focused approach that had made Phoenix successful with enterprise clients. Tyler saw our current model as a limitation that prevented growth. I saw it as the foundation that enabled our success. Tyler viewed standardization as an improvement opportunity. I understood it as a threat to client satisfaction. Tyler believed automation would enhance our efficiency. I knew it would eliminate the personal attention that made our enterprise clients loyal advocates. As Tyler's influence within Phoenix continued to grow, I realized that we were approaching a fundamental conflict about the company's future direction. Tyler's systematic approach to business transformation was impressive and potentially profitable, but it was completely incompatible with the relationship-based model that had generated $300 million in enterprise revenue. The collision between Tyler's vision and my approach was inevitable. The only question was which philosophy would ultimately determine Phoenix's future. The confrontation I had been dreading finally came on a Tuesday morning in May, disguised as a routine performance review meeting. Tyler had been at Phoenix for 6 weeks, and his strategic development initiatives were gaining momentum throughout the organization. He had successfully implemented automated client communication systems in our small business division, standardized sales processes for our mid-market accounts, and received board approval for a comprehensive enterprise optimization initiative. I should have known that Tyler's invitation for an individual performance consultation wasn't actually about my performance. His email had mentioned discussing alignment opportunities and strategic development priorities, which sounded more like corporate restructuring than employee evaluation. Tyler's office had been transformed into something resembling a war room. The whiteboards were covered with organizational charts, process flow diagrams, and efficiency metrics. His desk displayed multiple computer monitors showing real-time dashboards of Phoenix's operational data. The coffee table held neat stacks of consulting reports, competitive analysis documents, and strategic planning materials. But what really announced Tyler's intentions was the thick folder labeled Enterprise Division Optimization, sitting prominently in the center of his desk. I could see my name on several of the documents visible through the folder's transparent cover, along with detailed charts and graphs that looked suspiciously like the efficiency analysis reports his consultants had prepared. Tyler greeted me with his characteristic professional warmth, offering coffee and making casual conversation about Denver's unusually warm spring weather. But his demeanor shifted noticeably once we settled into the formal meeting. He opened the folder and began discussing my performance metrics with the systematic precision of a management consultant delivering recommendations to a client. According to Tyler's analysis, my approach to enterprise client management was fundamentally incompatible with Phoenix's growth objectives. He had detailed data showing that my client communication patterns were significantly above industry averages, and that my time allocation was heavily skewed toward relationship maintenance. Rather than revenue generation, Tyler explained that modern enterprise software companies achieved superior scalability by implementing systematic account management protocols rather than personality-dependent relationship models. He cited specific examples of successful companies, that had grown rapidly by standardizing their client service processes and optimizing their sales efficiency. But Tyler's most damaging criticism focused on what he called my limited scalability potential. He argued that my approach to client relationship management was inherently constrained because it depended on my personal availability and individual expertise. He calculated that I could realistically manage at most 30 enterprise accounts simultaneously, which created a structural growth limitation for Phoenix's enterprise division. Tyler proposed what he called a strategic transition to a more scalable model. His plan involved implementing automated client communication systems, training junior sales representatives to handle routine account management tasks, and standardizing our enterprise service delivery protocols. He estimated that these changes could increase our enterprise division capacity by 200%, while reducing operational costs by 40%. When I began explaining why enterprise relationships required personalized attention and customized solutions, Tyler interrupted with data showing that most Fortune 500 companies actually preferred efficient, technology-driven vendor interactions. He had survey results indicating that modern executives valued responsive, automated systems over variable individual attention. I tried to describe specific examples of how my relationship-focused approach had prevented problems and generated additional revenue. But Tyler responded with statistical analysis showing that systematic approaches produced more consistent results than personality-dependent methods. Tyler's confidence in his recommendations was absolute and completely disconnected from the reality of enterprise software relationships. He spoke about my clients as if they were data points rather than people, and he discussed their preferences as if they could be determined through market research rather than actual communication. When I mentioned that Patricia Williams at Health Tech, corporations specifically valued our personalized approach and had repeatedly emphasized the importance of working with people who understood healthcare industry challenges, Tyler responded that client preferences were often influenced by legacy expectations, and that modern service delivery methods would be more satisfying once clients adapted to them. Tyler genuinely believed that enterprise executives would prefer automated systems once they experienced the consistency and efficiency of standardized service protocols. He couldn't understand why anyone would choose variable individual attention over reliable systematic processes. But Tyler's most revealing comment came when I asked about client satisfaction during the transition period. He explained that temporary satisfaction declines were normal during operational optimization initiatives, and that companies typically achieved superior long-term results by implementing systematic improvements rather than maintaining inefficient traditional approaches. Tyler was willing to risk client satisfaction in order to achieve operational efficiency. He viewed potential client concerns as temporary obstacles rather than fundamental problems. He genuinely believed that his systematic approach would ultimately produce better results than our current relationship-focused model. The conversation continued for over an hour, with Tyler methodically presenting his analysis and me repeatedly explaining why enterprise relationships couldn't be standardized without destroying their effectiveness. But I could see that Tyler viewed my objections as resistance to change rather than legitimate concerns about client satisfaction. Tyler's final recommendation was presented as a collaborative opportunity rather than a directive. He suggested that I could play a valuable role in implementing the new systematic approach by training junior representatives and helping develop standardized protocols based on my experience with enterprise clients. But when I asked about my ongoing responsibilities for existing client relationships, Tyler explained that those accounts would be transitioned to the new systematic management model as part of the optimization initiative. He assured me that clients would receive superior service through the standardized protocols, and that I would be much more valuable to Phoenix by focusing on strategic development rather than individual account management. Tyler was offering me the opportunity to help destroy everything I had spent 9 years building, and he genuinely believed he was providing me with a promotion rather than a fundamental threat to my professional identity. I realized that Tyler wasn't trying to improve my approach to enterprise sales. He was trying to eliminate it entirely. His systematic model had no place for personalized relationships, customized solutions, or individual attention. He wanted to transform Phoenix into a completely different kind of company, and my approach to client service was incompatible with his vision. The meeting ended with Tyler requesting that I prepare detailed documentation of my client relationship processes so that his team could develop standardized protocols based on my experience. He wanted me to create the blueprint for my own professional obsolescence. As I walked back to my office, I understood that Tyler and I weren't just disagreeing about business strategy. We were representing fundamentally incompatible philosophies about how enterprise relationships should work. Tyler believed that systematic efficiency was superior to individual attention. I knew that enterprise clients valued personal relationships above automated processes. But more importantly, I realized that this wasn't really a discussion about optimization or efficiency. This was Tyler establishing his authority and demonstrating his vision for Phoenix's future. He had already decided to implement systematic account management protocols, and my role was either to support his initiative or to be replaced by someone who would. Tyler Davidson wasn't interested in collaboration or compromise. He was interested in transformation and everything about. My approach to enterprise sales was an obstacle to achieving his vision. The confrontation was over, but the real conflict was just beginning. The end came on a Friday afternoon in June, wrapped in corporate politeness and delivered with the clinical efficiency that Tyler Davidson had brought to every aspect of his transformation initiative. His assistant, a sharp young woman named Rebecca, who had been hired specifically to support his strategic development projects, sent me a calendar invitation for a 3:00 meeting titled Strategic Realignment Discussion. I knew immediately what that meeting would contain. Tyler's enterprise optimization initiative had been approved by the board the previous week, and implementation was scheduled to begin in July. I had watched him systematically restructure every other division at Phoenix, always with the same methodical approach, and always with the same polite but absolute determination to eliminate what he considered inefficiencies. Tyler's office felt different that Friday afternoon. The whiteboards had been cleared of their usual process diagrams and efficiency charts, replaced with clean organizational charts showing Phoenix's new structure. The consulting reports and strategic planning materials had been replaced with implementation timelines and training schedules. Even Tyler himself seemed different, more formal and distant than during our previous conversations. He began the meeting by acknowledging my contributions to Phoenix's success and expressing appreciation for my dedication to client service excellence. Tyler spoke about my achievements with genuine respect, mentioning specific contracts I had negotiated and recognizing the relationships I had built with major enterprise clients. But his tone carried the unmistakable formality of someone delivering predetermined conclusions rather than engaging in collaborative discussion. Tyler explained that Phoenix's board had approved a comprehensive restructuring of our enterprise division designed to position the company for accelerated growth and improved operational efficiency. The new model would implement systematic account management protocols, automated client communication systems, and standardized service delivery processes that would enable Phoenix to serve significantly more enterprise clients while maintaining consistent quality standards. But Tyler's most devastating revelation was his announcement that the restructuring would eliminate traditional account management positions in favor of specialized roles focused on specific functions within the enterprise sales process. Client relationship responsibilities would be distributed among technical specialists, customer service representatives, and business development coordinators, each trained to handle particular aspects of client interactions according to standardized protocols. Tyler presented this reorganization as an exciting opportunity for professional growth and expanded career development. He explained that the new structure would allow employees to develop deeper expertise in specialized areas rather than managing the broad but inefficient responsibilities of traditional account management roles. When I asked about my specific role in the new structure, Tyler's response was delivered with careful precision. He explained that my extensive experience with enterprise clients made me an ideal candidate for a newly created position as senior training coordinator, responsible for developing educational materials and conducting workshops to help other team members understand enterprise client needs and expectations. Tyler described this role with enthusiasm, emphasizing the strategic importance of knowledge transfer and the valuable contribution I could make by sharing my expertise with the entire enterprise team. He explained that my understanding of client relationship dynamics would be essential for creating effective training programs and ensuring successful implementation of the new systematic approaches. But when I asked about ongoing client relationship responsibilities, Tyler's answer revealed the true nature of his offer. The senior training coordinator position would focus exclusively on internal education and process development. Direct client interaction would be handled by the specialized teams according to the new systematic protocols. Tyler was offering me the opportunity to train other people to replace me, and he was presenting it as a promotion rather than a fundamental elimination of everything that made my work meaningful and effective. I asked Tyler directly whether he believed that systematic protocols could maintain the same level of client satisfaction that I had achieved through personalized relationship management. His response demonstrated the complete confidence in his analytical approach that had characterized all of our interactions. Tyler explained that modern enterprise software companies achieved superior client satisfaction through consistent, reliable, technology-enhanced service delivery rather than variable individual attention. He cited research showing that systematic approaches produced more predictable outcomes and eliminated the service quality fluctuations that inevitably resulted from personality-dependent relationships. Tyler genuinely believed that his systematic model would provide better service to our enterprise clients than my relationship-focused approach. He couldn't understand why anyone would prefer inconsistent individual attention over reliable automated processes, and he was convinced that clients would appreciate the improved efficiency and consistency of the new protocols. When I mentioned specific examples of situations where personalized attention had been crucial for client satisfaction, Tyler responded that systematic protocols could be designed to handle those scenarios more effectively than individual improvisation. He explained that comprehensive training and detailed procedures would enable any team member to address client concerns appropriately, rather than depending on the availability and expertise of specific individuals. Tyler's vision for enterprise client service was completely standardized and entirely impersonal. He envisioned a system where every client interaction followed predetermined scripts, every problem was addressed through established procedures, and every solution was implemented according to documented protocols. But Tyler's most revealing comment came when I asked about the transition period for existing clients. He acknowledged that some clients might initially resist the changes because they were accustomed to working with me personally. But he was confident that they would quickly appreciate the improved consistency and reliability of the systematic approach. Tyler was willing to risk alienating established clients in order to implement his efficiency-focused model. He viewed potential client resistance as a temporary obstacle rather than a fundamental problem, and he genuinely believed that systematic service delivery would ultimately produce better results than personalized relationship management. I realized that Tyler wasn't just restructuring my job. He was eliminating the entire concept of personalized enterprise client service at Phoenix Software Solutions. His systematic model had no place for individual relationships, customized attention, or personal investment in client success. When I asked for time to consider his offer, Tyler's response revealed the predetermined nature of our conversation. He explained that the restructuring would be implemented beginning Monday, and that all affected employees needed to confirm their participation in the new structure by the end of the day Friday. Tyler wasn't offering me a choice between my current role and the training position. He was informing me that my current role was being eliminated, and giving me the option to accept the training position or leave Phoenix entirely. I asked Tyler directly whether he understood that implementing systematic protocols would likely result in client dissatisfaction and potential contract cancellations. His response demonstrated his absolute confidence in his analytical approach and his complete misunderstanding of enterprise relationship dynamics. Tyler explained that his consulting experience had shown him that most client satisfaction problems resulted from inconsistent service delivery rather than lack of personal attention. He was convinced that systematic approaches would eliminate the variable service quality that caused client frustration, and that enterprise executives would prefer reliable automated processes over unpredictable individual relationships. Tyler genuinely believed that he was improving Phoenix's client service capabilities by eliminating what he viewed as inefficient and unreliable relationship-dependent approaches. He couldn't understand why I would resist implementing changes that would mathematically improve our service delivery consistency and operational efficiency. But I understood something that Tyler's analytical approach had missed entirely. Enterprise software relationships aren't just about service delivery efficiency or operational consistency. They're about trust, understanding, and personal investment in client success. Fortune 500 executives don't just want reliable vendors. They want strategic partners who understand their industry challenges and care about their business outcomes. Tyler's systematic model could potentially deliver consistent service, but it couldn't provide the personalized attention, industry expertise, and genuine investment that made enterprise clients view Phoenix as an indispensable strategic partner, rather than just another software vendor. I told Tyler that I needed to decline his offer of the training coordinator position. I explained that my professional identity was built around direct client relationship management, and that I couldn't contribute effectively to implementing systematic approaches that I believed would damage client satisfaction and threaten Phoenix's enterprise business. Tyler accepted my decision with polite professionalism, but I could see disappointment in his expression. He had genuinely hoped that I would embrace his vision for Phoenix's future and contribute to implementing his transformation initiative. Tyler explained that Phoenix would announce the enterprise division restructuring on Monday, and that affected clients would be notified about the new systematic service delivery model beginning Tuesday. He assured me that the transition would be managed carefully to minimize client disruption, and that the specialized teams were already trained and prepared to implement the new protocols. As our meeting concluded, Tyler thanked me again for my contributions to Phoenix's success and expressed hope that I would consider returning to the company in the future if circumstances changed. His tone was genuinely respectful, and I could see that he truly believed he was making necessary improvements rather than destroying effective relationships. But Tyler's final comment revealed the fundamental disconnect between his vision and reality. He mentioned that he was looking forward to demonstrating the superior effectiveness of systematic enterprise client service, and that he was confident the new model would generate significantly better results than our previous relationship-dependent approach. Tyler Davidson was about to learn that enterprise software relationships couldn't be systematized without destroying their essential nature. He was about to discover that Fortune 500 executives valued personal attention more than operational efficiency, and that automated protocols couldn't replace the trust and understanding that made strategic partnerships successful. But Tyler wouldn't learn those lessons immediately. The education would come gradually, as client after client discovered that Phoenix Software Solutions had transformed from a trusted strategic partner into just another vendor with impressive systems and impersonal service delivery. I walked out of Phoenix Software Solutions that Friday afternoon knowing that Tyler Davidson had just made the most expensive mistake in the company's history. He had eliminated the person who maintained $300 million worth of enterprise relationships, and he was about to discover exactly how much those relationships were worth. I didn't cry in the parking garage. I didn't call my sister to vent my frustration. I didn't even feel the anger that everyone expects when you've just been professionally discarded after 9 years of exceptional service. Instead, I felt something much more dangerous. I felt calm. The drive home through Denver's Friday afternoon, traffic gave me time to process what had just happened. But more importantly, it gave me time to think about what was going to happen next. Tyler Davidson had just made a decision that demonstrated his complete misunderstanding of enterprise software relationships, and I was the only person who fully comprehended the scope of his mistake. For 9 years, I had been the human bridge, connecting Phoenix Software Solutions to 23 major enterprise clients worth over $300 million in revenue. Tyler believed those relationships could be maintained through systematic protocols and automated processes. He was about to learn that enterprise software partnerships can't be standardized without destroying their essential foundation. But I wasn't going to warn him. I wasn't going to call Michael Davidson to explain the catastrophic implications of Tyler's restructuring initiative. I wasn't going to reach out to Amanda Chen or any of my other colleagues to alert them about the crisis that was coming. Tyler had made his choice with absolute confidence in his analytical approach, and he was about to experience the natural consequences of that choice. My apartment felt different that evening. For 9 years, Friday nights had been planning time when I reviewed the upcoming week's client communications, prepared for Monday morning calls, and organized my schedule around client needs and priorities. But for the first time in nearly a decade, I had no client responsibilities, no urgent issues to resolve, and no weekend preparations to complete. Instead, I opened a bottle of wine, ordered takeout from my favorite Thai restaurant, and began thinking systematically about everything Tyler didn't know about my enterprise client relationships. The analysis was both fascinating and terrifying. Tyler's systematic protocols assumed that enterprise client needs were predictable and standardizable. But my relationships were built on understanding the unique challenges, preferences, and organizational dynamics of each individual client company. Patricia Williams at HealthTech Corporation required different communication styles than Robert Chen at Manufacturing Plus, who needed entirely different approaches than Margaret Foster at Financial Services Group. Tyler's automated communication systems assumed that enterprise executives wanted efficient, technology-driven interactions. But my clients valued personal attention precisely because they received automated communications from dozens of other vendors every day. When Patricia Williams called me directly instead of going through Phoenix's standard customer service channels, she was demonstrating that she trusted me personally, not Phoenix's systems. Tyler's standardized service delivery protocols assumed that enterprise problems could be resolved through documented procedures and trained specialists. But my most valuable contributions came from understanding the interconnected nature of my clients' businesses and anticipating problems before they became critical issues. When HealthTech Corporation announced plans to acquire 2 smaller healthcare systems, I immediately began planning how our software could accommodate their integration challenges. When Manufacturing Plus reported supply chain disruptions, I worked with our development team to create enhanced forecasting capabilities. When Financial Services Group faced new regulatory requirements, I coordinated with their legal department to ensure our compliance features met federal standards. These weren't reactive responses to client requests. They were proactive, strategic partnerships that prevented problems and created opportunities. Tyler's systematic model had no mechanism for that kind of anticipatory relationship management because it couldn't be standardized or automated. But perhaps most importantly, Tyler had completely misunderstood the personal nature of enterprise software purchasing decisions. Fortune 500 executives don't just buy software systems. They buy confidence that their vendor will be available when critical problems arise, that their concerns will be understood and addressed promptly, and that their business success matters personally to the people they're working with. My enterprise clients didn't just trust Phoenix Software Solutions. They trusted me. When they called with urgent issues, they wanted to speak with someone who understood their industry, their company culture, and their specific operational challenges. They wanted to work with someone who had invested years in understanding their business and who cared about their success as much as they did. Tyler's specialists might be technically competent and procedurally trained, but they couldn't provide the personal investment and industry expertise that made my relationships so valuable. Enterprise executives would quickly notice the difference between working with a strategic partner who understood their business and working with customer service representatives following scripts. Saturday morning brought the first validation of my analysis. Patricia Williams called my personal cell phone, something she had done occasionally over the years when she needed to discuss sensitive issues or urgent problems. She had received Phoenix's automated notification about the enterprise division restructuring, and she wanted to understand what the changes meant for HealthTech's ongoing relationship with Phoenix. I explained that I was no longer with Phoenix, and that her account would be managed through the new systematic protocols Tyler had implemented. Patricia's response was immediate and unambiguous. She was not interested in working with automated systems or unfamiliar specialists. She wanted to continue working with me personally, and she was willing to consider alternative software providers if that wasn't possible with Phoenix. Patricia's concern wasn't just about personal preference. HealthTech Corporation was planning a major expansion of their surgical services, which would require significant modifications to their current software configuration. She needed to work with someone who understood both their existing systems and their strategic objectives. Someone who could coordinate complex technical implementations while managing organizational change challenges. Tyler's specialists might be able to handle routine technical support, but they couldn't provide the strategic consulting and coordinated project management that Patricia needed for her expansion initiative. She was looking for a trusted advisor, not a customer service provider. I didn't offer to help Patricia find alternative software solutions. I didn't suggest that she contact Phoenix's management to express her concerns about the restructuring. I simply confirmed that I was no longer available to support her account and wished her success with her expansion plans. But I also didn't discourage her when she asked for my personal contact information in case she decided to explore other software options. Patricia Williams was a sophisticated executive who understood the strategic importance of vendor relationships, and she was perfectly capable of making her own decisions about HealthTech's software needs. Sunday brought similar calls from Robert Chen at Manufacturing Plus and Margaret Foster at Financial Services Group. Both executives had received Phoenix's restructuring notifications. Both were concerned about the implications for their ongoing software implementations, and both wanted to understand their options if they weren't satisfied with the new systematic service delivery model. I provided the same response to both calls. I confirmed that I was no longer with Phoenix, explained that their accounts would be managed through new systematic protocols, and offered no guidance about their options or alternatives. But I also made myself available if they wanted to discuss their software needs independent of Phoenix's services. Robert Chen was particularly concerned because Manufacturing Plus was in the middle of implementing software modifications to accommodate their new production line configuration. The project required close coordination between Phoenix's technical team and Manufacturing Plus's plant managers, and Robert had been relying on my industry expertise to ensure that the modifications met their operational requirements. Tyler's technical specialists might be able to complete the software modifications, but they couldn't provide the manufacturing industry knowledge that Robert needed to ensure optimal configuration. Robert was looking for someone who understood both software capabilities and manufacturing operations, someone who could translate between technical possibilities and operational requirements. Margaret Foster's concerns were even more complex. Financial Services Group was preparing for a federal compliance audit that would examine their customer data management systems, and Margaret needed assurance that Phoenix's software met all regulatory requirements. She had been depending on my understanding of financial services regulations to coordinate with their legal department and ensure compliance readiness. Tyler's customer service representatives might be able to provide technical documentation, but they couldn't offer the regulatory expertise that Margaret needed for her compliance preparations. She was looking for someone who understood both software functionality and banking regulations, someone who could speak knowledgeably with federal auditors about data management protocols. By Sunday evening, I had received inquiries from 6 of my former enterprise clients, all expressing similar concerns about Phoenix's restructuring and all asking about alternative options for their software needs. I hadn't solicited these calls or encouraged these inquiries. My former clients were simply responding to the reality that systematic protocols couldn't replace the personalized strategic partnerships they had valued. I spent Sunday evening researching Phoenix's competitors, not because I was planning to actively recruit my former clients, but because I wanted to understand their options if they decided to change software providers. Enterprise software transitions are complex and expensive, but they're not impossible when clients are dissatisfied with their current vendor relationships. The competitive analysis was revealing. Phoenix's primary competitors offered similar technical capabilities, but generally provided more personalized account management approaches. Several companies specifically marketed their relationship-focused service models as alternatives to automated customer service systems. If my former enterprise clients decided to explore alternative software options, they would find vendors eager to provide the personalized attention and industry expertise that Tyler had eliminated from Phoenix's service delivery model. But I still wasn't planning to actively recruit my former clients or encourage them to leave Phoenix. I was simply preparing to respond appropriately if they reached out for guidance about their options. Tyler's systematic approach would either succeed or fail based on its own merits, and my former clients were sophisticated enough to evaluate their vendor relationships independently. Monday morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn clarity that makes Denver beautiful, and I spent the day organizing my home office and updating my professional profiles. For the first time in 9 years, I had no client calls to make, no urgent issues to resolve, and no crisis management responsibilities. Instead, I had something much more valuable. I had the knowledge, experience, and industry relationships to succeed independently if I chose to start my own consulting practice. I had the personal contact information for 23 major enterprise clients who trusted my expertise and valued my approach to strategic partnerships. Most importantly, I had the calm confidence that comes from knowing that Tyler Davidson was about to learn some very expensive lessons about the difference between systematic efficiency and relationship effectiveness. The education was about to begin. The first crack in Tyler's systematic approach appeared on Monday morning at 9:47, exactly 3 days after my termination and less than 48 hours after Phoenix announced their enterprise division restructuring. Amanda Chen sent me a text message that was both predictable and devastating. Jessica, Health Tech called asking for you specifically. The new account specialist couldn't answer basic questions about their implementation timeline. Patricia Williams. Sounds frustrated. I stared at my phone, feeling a mixture of vindication and sadness. I had known this would happen, but seeing it unfold so quickly was still jarring. Patricia Williams had trusted Phoenix Software Solutions for 8 years, not because of our automated systems or systematic protocols, but because of our personal relationship and my understanding of healthcare industry challenges. Tyler's account specialist had probably been technically trained and procedurally prepared, but they couldn't provide the industry expertise and relationship history that Patricia expected. When she called with questions about health tech's surgical services expansion, she was looking for strategic guidance from someone who understood both their current systems and their business objectives. Instead, she had encountered a customer service representative following scripts. Amanda's next text arrived 20 minutes later. Manufacturing Plus wants to speak with you about their production line modifications. The technical specialist said they'd need to research the requirements and get back to them. Robert Chen asked when you'd be available. Robert Chen's frustration was entirely predictable. Manufacturing Plus was implementing time-sensitive modifications to accommodate their new production line, and they needed immediate technical guidance from someone who understood both their operational requirements and Phoenix's software capabilities. Tyler's specialists might eventually provide appropriate solutions, but Robert's manufacturing schedule couldn't accommodate research delays and follow-up conversations. In the manufacturing industry, Production delays cost thousands of dollars per hour. Robert needed real-time problem-solving from someone who could make informed decisions quickly, not systematic procedures that required research and approval processes. By 11:30, Amanda had sent 3 more updates. Financial Services Group was asking about my availability for their compliance audit preparations. Retail Systems Corporation wanted to discuss their quarterly implementation review. Healthcare. Networks needed clarification about their contract renewal terms. Each inquiry followed the same pattern. Tyler's systematic approach had eliminated the personalized expertise that my enterprise clients valued, and they were responding by requesting specific access to the person they trusted. But Tyler's new protocols had no mechanism for accommodating client preferences about account management relationships. The systematic model assigned clients to specialists based on technical requirements and functional categories, not on relationship history or industry expertise. My former clients were discovering that Phoenix Software Solutions had transformed from a strategic partner into a customer service provider, and they were not happy about the change. Amanda's most revealing message arrived just before noon. Tyler called an emergency meeting about client communication protocols. He seems confused about why clients are asking for you specifically when they have trained specialists assigned to their accounts. Tyler's confusion was entirely predictable and deeply troubling. He genuinely couldn't understand why enterprise clients would prefer personalized relationships over systematic efficiency. His analytical approach had convinced him that clients valued consistent service delivery more than individual attention, and he was discovering that his assumptions were completely wrong. But Tyler's real problem wasn't just client dissatisfaction. His systematic model was designed to improve efficiency and reduce costs by eliminating what he viewed as redundant relationship management activities. Instead, it was creating operational chaos by generating client complaints that required management attention and emergency problem-solving. Tyler had expected his new protocols to streamline client communications and reduce account management workload. Instead, he was dealing with frustrated clients, confused specialists, and operational disruptions that were consuming more time and resources than the previous relationship-focused approach. Wednesday brought escalation. Amanda's messages revealed that client inquiries were becoming client demands, and Tyler's systematic approach was proving inadequate for managing enterprise relationship challenges. Patricia Williams called Michael Davidson directly, Amanda reported. She told him that health tech needs strategic guidance for their expansion project, not technical support from customer service representatives. She wants to discuss their options. Patricia's call to Michael was significant for multiple reasons. First, it demonstrated that she viewed her concerns as serious enough to warrant CEO attention. Second, it showed that she understood the difference between technical support and strategic consulting. Third, it indicated that she was considering alternative options for health tech's software needs. Enterprise clients who call CEO offices aren't just expressing dissatisfaction. They're preparing to make vendor relationship decisions. Robert. Chen's response was even more dramatic. Manufacturing Plus sent a formal letter requesting immediate access to qualified manufacturing industry specialists, Amanda reported. They're threatening to suspend their implementation project until they can work with someone who understands their operational requirements. Robert's formal letter represented a significant escalation. Manufacturing companies don't threaten project suspensions lightly, especially when production schedules are involved. Robert was demonstrating that his concerns were serious enough to warrant legal documentation and potential contract implications. Tyler's systematic approach had transformed a satisfied long-term client into a dissatisfied customer, considering contract enforcement actions. Thursday's developments were even more concerning. Amanda reported that Margaret Foster at Financial Services Group had contacted Phoenix's legal department about their compliance audit preparations. Margaret wants written confirmation that Phoenix can provide regulatory expertise for their federal audit, Amanda explained. She's concerned that the new customer service model doesn't include banking regulation specialists. Margaret's legal inquiry was particularly troubling because it indicated that she was preparing for potential compliance problems. Financial services companies take regulatory audits extremely seriously, and Margaret was apparently concerned that Tyler's systematic approach couldn't provide the specialized expertise she needed. If Financial Services Group failed their compliance audit because Phoenix couldn't provide appropriate regulatory support, the implications could extend far beyond client dissatisfaction to include legal liability and industry reputation damage. But Tyler's most significant challenge emerged Friday morning, when Amanda reported that 3 enterprise clients had formally requested contract review meetings. Health Tech, Manufacturing Plus, and Financial Services Group all want to discuss their ongoing relationship expectations, Amanda explained. Michael Davidson is personally involved now, and Tyler looks panicked. Contract review meetings are enterprise clients' polite way of expressing serious dissatisfaction and exploring alternative vendor relationships. When major clients request formal meetings to discuss relationship expectations, they're typically preparing to renegotiate terms or terminate contracts entirely. Tyler had spent 6 weeks implementing systematic protocols designed to improve efficiency and scalability. Instead, he had created a client satisfaction crisis that threatened Phoenix's 3 largest enterprise accounts. But the most revealing development came in Amanda's final message of the week. Tyler asked me to compile your client contact information and relationship history notes. He wants to understand what he's missing about enterprise account management. Tyler's request for my relationship documentation was both predictable and futile. He was finally recognizing that his systematic approach was missing critical elements, but he was trying to solve relationship problems with data analysis rather than personal connection. Tyler could review my contact information and relationship notes, but he couldn't replicate the years of trust building, industry expertise development, and personal investment that made those relationships valuable. He could understand what I had done, but he couldn't reproduce how I had done it. Enterprise relationships aren't built on information. They're built on credibility, understanding, and genuine care for client success. Tyler's analytical approach could identify the components of successful relationships, but it couldn't create the human connections that made those relationships effective. Friday evening brought the week's final update from Amanda. Michael Davidson called an emergency board meeting for Monday morning. The agenda includes enterprise client retention strategies and account management effectiveness review. Michael's emergency board meeting was the clearest indication that Tyler's systematic approach was creating serious business problems. Enterprise client retention wasn't just an operational issue. It was a financial crisis that threatened Phoenix's revenue stability and growth prospects. Tyler Davidson had spent 6 weeks implementing what he believed were superior systematic protocols for enterprise client management. Instead, he had discovered that Fortune 500 executives valued personal relationships more than operational efficiency, and that automated systems couldn't replace the trust and expertise that made strategic partnerships successful. But Tyler's education was just beginning. The dominoes were falling, but the real avalanche was still gathering momentum. The avalanche that I had been anticipating arrived with the devastating precision of a natural disaster. By the second week after my termination, Tyler's systematic approach wasn't just failing to maintain client relationships, it was actively destroying the foundation of Phoenix Software Solutions' enterprise business. Amanda's Monday morning message delivered the news with stark simplicity. 3 major clients have formally requested contract termination discussions. Tyler's emergency protocols aren't working. Michael Davidson looks like he aged 10 years over the weekend. Contract termination discussions aren't temporary client dissatisfaction that can be resolved through improved customer service. They represent fundamental breakdowns in vendor relationships that threaten millions of dollars in revenue and take months or years to rebuild. Health Tech Corporation had scheduled a formal contract review meeting for Wednesday with Patricia Williams, bringing their legal counsel and procurement team. Manufacturing Plus had initiated their vendor replacement evaluation process, requesting proposals from Phoenix's primary competitors. Financial Services Group had formally notified Phoenix that they were suspending all new implementation projects, pending resolution of service delivery concerns. Tyler's 6-week transformation initiative had converted 3 satisfied long-term enterprise clients into dissatisfied customers actively exploring alternative vendor relationships. But the crisis was spreading beyond the 3 clients who had initiated formal contract reviews. Amanda reported that additional enterprise clients were expressing concerns about Phoenix's restructuring and requesting clarification about their ongoing account management arrangements. Retail Systems Corporation had called to confirm that their upcoming quarterly business review would include discussion of service delivery expectations and relationship management protocols. Healthcare Networks had requested a meeting to discuss continuity of strategic consulting services. Technology Solutions Group had formally complained about response time delays and decreased expertise availability. The systematic approach that Tyler had designed to improve efficiency was creating operational chaos throughout Phoenix's enterprise division. Instead of streamlining client communications, the new protocols were generating complaints, confusion, and administrative overhead that consumed more resources than the previous relationship-focused model. Tuesday brought more devastating news. Amanda reported that Patricia Williams had met with representatives from 2 of Phoenix's primary competitors and was seriously considering alternative software providers for HealthTech's expansion project. Patricia's competitive evaluations represented more than just one client's dissatisfaction. HealthTech Corporation was one of Phoenix's showcase enterprise implementations, frequently referenced in sales presentations and marketing materials. If Patricia terminated their relationship with Phoenix, it would damage our reputation throughout the healthcare software market. But Patricia's decision-making process revealed the fundamental flaw in Tyler's systematic approach. She wasn't evaluating Phoenix's technical capabilities or comparing software features. She was assessing vendor relationships and strategic partnership potential. Patricia needed a software provider who could understand healthcare industry challenges, coordinate complex implementation projects, and provide strategic guidance for organizational growth initiatives. Tyler's customer service specialists could handle technical support requests, but they couldn't provide the industry expertise and strategic consulting that Patricia required. Robert Chen's response was even more dramatic. Manufacturing Plus had issued a formal vendor performance deficiency notice documenting their concerns about Phoenix's new service delivery model and requesting immediate remediation of expertise, availability, and responsiveness issues. Vendor performance deficiency notices are serious legal documents that manufacturing companies use to document contract compliance problems. Robert wasn't just expressing dissatisfaction. He was creating legal documentation that could support contract termination actions if Phoenix couldn't resolve his concerns promptly. Robert's specific complaints focused on decreased manufacturing industry expertise, delayed response times for operational questions, and inability to provide strategic guidance for production optimization initiatives. Tyler's technical specialists could answer software configuration questions, but they couldn't provide the manufacturing operations consulting that Robert needed. Wednesday's developments were catastrophic. Amanda reported that Patricia Williams had formally notified Michael Davidson that HealthTech Corporation was terminating their relationship with Phoenix effective immediately and transitioning to a competitor who could provide appropriate industry expertise and strategic partnership capabilities. Patricia's termination notification was professionally worded but devastatingly clear. HealthTech valued their relationship with me personally, not with Phoenix Software Solutions as a company. When Tyler eliminated personalized account management, he eliminated the primary reason HealthTech chose Phoenix over competitors. But Patricia's termination had implications beyond the immediate loss of HealthTech's contract revenue. She was highly respected in the healthcare software industry, and frequently spoke at conferences about vendor relationship best practices. Her public criticism of Phoenix's restructuring would damage our reputation throughout the healthcare market. Thursday brought the cascade's most destructive development. Robert Chen announced that Manufacturing Plus was immediately suspending all ongoing implementation projects and initiating formal contract termination procedures based on material breach of service delivery expectations. Robert's contract termination action was based on legal analysis of Phoenix's obligations under their enterprise service agreement. Manufacturing Plus's legal team had determined that Tyler's systematic approach constituted a material change in service delivery that violated their contract terms. Robert wasn't just dissatisfied with Phoenix's new protocols. He was arguing that Tyler's restructuring represented breach of contract that justified immediate termination without penalty payments. Friday delivered the week's final devastating blow. Margaret Foster formally notified Phoenix that Financial Services Group was terminating their relationship immediately due to inability to provide required regulatory expertise and strategic consulting services. Margaret's termination was particularly damaging because financial services companies are extremely conservative about vendor relationships. Margaret's decision to terminate Phoenix would likely influence other financial institutions' perception of our capabilities and reliability. But Margaret's termination notification included specific language about Phoenix's failure to provide banking regulation specialists and compliance audit support capabilities. She was publicly documenting that Tyler's systematic approach couldn't meet financial services industry requirements. By Friday afternoon, Phoenix Software Solutions had lost 3 major enterprise clients worth over $80 million in annual revenue. Tyler's 6-week transformation initiative had destroyed relationships that I had spent years building and maintained through careful attention to industry expertise and personalized service delivery. Amanda's final message of the week revealed the scope of the crisis. Emergency board meeting scheduled for Monday morning. Michael Davidson has requested detailed analysis of enterprise client losses and restoration strategies. Tyler has been asked to prepare comprehensive explanation of restructuring decisions. Michael's request for restoration strategies indicated that he understood Tyler's systematic approach had failed catastrophically and that Phoenix needed to rebuild their enterprise client relationships. But enterprise software relationships can't be restored quickly once they've been damaged by service delivery failures. The clients who had terminated their contracts weren't just dissatisfied with Phoenix's current capabilities. They had lost confidence in Phoenix's ability to understand their industry requirements and provide strategic partnership value. Rebuilding that confidence would require months or years of demonstrated expertise and relationship investment. Tyler's analytical approach had convinced him that systematic protocols could improve enterprise client service efficiency and scalability. Instead, he had discovered that Fortune 500 executives valued personal relationships, industry expertise, and strategic consulting capabilities that couldn't be automated or standardized. But the most devastating aspect of Tyler's failure wasn't just the immediate loss of major enterprise clients. His systematic approach had eliminated Phoenix's competitive advantage in the enterprise software market. Our primary differentiation had been personalized relationship management and industry-specific expertise, exactly the capabilities that Tyler had systematized out of existence. Phoenix's enterprise competitors were already reaching out to our former clients, offering exactly the kind of personalized attention and strategic partnership value that Tyler had eliminated. We had essentially provided our competitors with a roadmap for stealing our most valuable enterprise accounts. Sunday evening brought Amanda's most sobering message. Talk to contacts at other software companies. Word is spreading that Phoenix eliminated their enterprise relationship management capabilities. Competitors are actively targeting our remaining enterprise clients. Tyler Davidson had spent 6 weeks implementing what he believed were superior systematic protocols for enterprise client management. Instead, He had triggered an industry-wide competitive assault on Phoenix's enterprise business that threatened the company's fundamental viability. The cascade effect was complete, but the avalanche was still gathering momentum. Tyler was about to learn that destroying enterprise relationships was much easier than building them, and that systematic efficiency couldn't replace the human expertise that made strategic partnerships valuable. The real reckoning was just beginning. The phone call came on a Monday morning at 6:43, while I was enjoying my first leisurely breakfast in 2 weeks. Michael Davidson's name appeared on my caller ID, and I let it ring 3 times before answering. The man who had built Phoenix Software Solutions from a startup dream into a $500 million enterprise sounded like he had aged years in the span of days. "Jessica?" Michael's voice carried a weight I had never heard before. "I need to see you today. Can you come in this morning?" I could hear exhaustion and desperation beneath his professional composure. This wasn't the confident CEO who had built an empire through strategic vision and calculated risk-taking. This was a man watching his life's work disintegrate because he had trusted his son's theoretical expertise over proven relationship management success. "I'm no longer an employee, Michael," I replied calmly. "If you want to meet, it'll need to be somewhere neutral." The pause that followed told me everything about how dramatically the power dynamic had shifted. Michael Davidson, who had never needed to accommodate anyone's scheduling preferences, was suddenly in the position of requesting my time and accepting my conditions. We agreed to meet at the downtown Denver Marriott, in a private conference room that Michael reserved for what he described as confidential business discussions. The location choice was symbolic. Michael was acknowledging that our conversation would be a negotiation between equals, not a corporate meeting between employer and employee. I arrived 15 minutes early and spent the time reviewing notes. I had prepared about Phoenix's current situation. Based on Amanda's updates and industry contacts, I knew that Phoenix had lost 4 major enterprise clients representing nearly $100 million in annual revenue. Tyler's systematic approach had triggered a competitive feeding frenzy, with rival software companies actively pursuing Phoenix's remaining enterprise accounts. But the financial damage was only part of Phoenix's crisis. The company's reputation in the enterprise software market had been severely damaged by high-profile client defections and public criticism of their service delivery capabilities. Industry publications were reporting that Phoenix had eliminated their enterprise relationship management expertise and transformed from strategic partner to customer service provider. Rebuilding Phoenix's enterprise business would require more than just hiring new account managers or implementing better customer service protocols. It would require demonstrating to Fortune 500 executives that Phoenix understood the strategic importance of personalized relationships and industry-specific expertise. Michael Davidson walked into the conference room looking like a man who had discovered that his greatest professional achievement was crumbling around him. His usually immaculate appearance showed signs of stress and sleepless nights. His characteristic confidence had been replaced by the uncertain demeanor of someone who had lost control of circumstances he thought he understood. "Jessica?" Michael began without preamble. "I made a terrible mistake." The admission was delivered with the stark honesty of someone who had run out of alternatives and excuses. Michael wasn't trying to minimize his error or shift responsibility to others. He was acknowledging complete failure of judgment about something fundamental to his company's success. "Tyler convinced me that systematic approaches would improve our enterprise client service," Michael continued. "He had data, analysis, and compelling arguments about efficiency and scalability. But he completely misunderstood what made our enterprise relationships valuable." Michael's recognition of Tyler's fundamental error was accurate but incomplete. Tyler hadn't just misunderstood enterprise relationships. He had eliminated the human expertise and personal investment that Fortune 500 executives valued more than operational efficiency or automated convenience. "The clients aren't just dissatisfied," Michael explained. "They're angry. Patricia Williams told me that Phoenix had betrayed 8 years of trust by eliminating the strategic partnership that made our relationship valuable. Robert Chen said we had demonstrated fundamental disrespect for manufacturing industry expertise. Margaret Foster accused us of misrepresenting our regulatory compliance capabilities. Michael's summary of client feedback revealed that Tyler's systematic approach had been interpreted as betrayal rather than improvement. Enterprise executives who had invested years in building relationships with me personally felt that Phoenix had deliberately eliminated the value they most appreciated about our partnership. But the worst part, Michael continued, is that our remaining enterprise clients are questioning whether Phoenix can be trusted to maintain strategic partnerships. Tyler's restructuring has damaged our credibility throughout the enterprise software market. Michael understood that Phoenix's crisis extended beyond immediate client losses to include long-term reputation damage that would affect their ability to compete for new enterprise business. Fortune 500 companies share information about vendor relationships, and Phoenix's systematic approach had become a cautionary tale about the dangers of eliminating personalized account management. "I need your help," Michael said with the directness of someone who had exhausted other options. "Phoenix is facing the most serious crisis in our company's history, and you're the only person who can fix it." Michael's request for help was delivered, without conditions or qualifications. He wasn't offering me a job or proposing specific terms. He was acknowledging that Phoenix's survival depended on my willingness to rebuild what Tyler had destroyed. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" I responded. "Whatever it takes," Michael replied immediately. "I need you to save Phoenix's enterprise business. I need you to restore our client relationships. I need you to rebuild our reputation in the enterprise software market." Michael's request was comprehensive and desperate. He wasn't asking me to return to my previous role or to work within Tyler's systematic framework. He was asking me to take complete responsibility for Phoenix's enterprise division and to implement whatever changes were necessary to restore client confidence. "And Tyler?" I asked. Michael's expression revealed the painful recognition that his son's transformation initiative had been catastrophically wrong. "Tyler will be reassigned to strategic planning and business development. He won't have any authority over enterprise client relationships or account management protocols." Michael was offering to remove Tyler from all responsibilities related to enterprise business, effectively acknowledging that his son's systematic approach was incompatible with successful client relationship management. "I need you to understand," Michael continued, "that Phoenix's board is considering dramatic restructuring options if we can't restore our enterprise business. We could lose everything if this crisis continues." Michael's revelation about board discussions indicated that Phoenix's enterprise losses threatened the company's fundamental viability. The board was apparently preparing contingency plans that could include selling the enterprise division, merging with competitors, or restructuring the entire company. "The clients who terminated their contracts represent 60% of our enterprise revenue," Michael explained. "The remaining clients are questioning their ongoing relationships. Our competitors are aggressively pursuing our accounts. We're facing potential financial disaster." Michael's financial analysis confirmed what I had suspected about the scope of Phoenix's crisis. Tyler's systematic approach hadn't just damaged individual client relationships. It had triggered an existential threat to Phoenix's enterprise business model. "But I believe you can fix this," Michael said with desperate hope. "You built these relationships originally. You understand what our clients value. You know how to rebuild trust and restore confidence." Michael's faith in my abilities was both flattering and daunting. Rebuilding Phoenix's enterprise business would require more than just restoring individual client relationships. It would require demonstrating to the entire enterprise software market that Phoenix had learned from their mistakes and recommitted to personalized strategic partnerships. "If I agree to help," I said, "I'll need complete authority over enterprise operations. No interference from Tyler, No systematic protocols. No efficiency initiatives that compromise client relationships. Agreed, Michael responded immediately. I'll need significant compensation increases and equity participation in Phoenix's recovery, I continued. Whatever you require, Michael replied without hesitation. And I'll need public acknowledgement that Tyler's approach was wrong and that Phoenix is returning to relationship-focused enterprise account management, I added. Michael paused briefly, recognizing the implications for his son's reputation and future role at Phoenix. But his response was definitive. I'll make whatever announcements are necessary. Michael Davidson was offering me complete control over Phoenix's enterprise division, substantial financial rewards, and public vindication of my approach to client relationship management. But more importantly, he was acknowledging that his company's survival depended on rejecting his son's systematic philosophy and returning to the personalized strategic partnerships that had made Phoenix successful. I'll need to speak with our former clients personally, I explained. Rebuilding these relationships will require individual attention and customized approaches. No automated communications, no standardized protocols. Whatever you think is necessary, Michael agreed. And I'll need to hire additional enterprise account managers who understand relationship-focused client service, I added. Full hiring authority, Michael confirmed. The conversation continued for another hour, with Michael agreeing to every condition I proposed for rebuilding Phoenix's enterprise business. By the time we concluded our meeting, I had negotiated complete operational authority, substantial financial compensation, and public acknowledgement that relationship-focused account management was essential for enterprise software success. But, more importantly, I had gained something much more valuable than professional vindication. I had gained the opportunity to prove that personalized strategic partnerships weren't just more effective than systematic protocols. They were essential for sustainable success in the enterprise software market. Michael Davidson had built Phoenix software solutions through vision, determination, and strategic risk-taking. But he had nearly destroyed it by trusting theoretical efficiency over proven relationship management expertise. His recognition of that mistake and his willingness to empower me to fix it demonstrated the kind of leadership judgment that had made Phoenix successful originally. As I drove home from our meeting, I felt the familiar excitement of a significant professional challenge. Rebuilding Phoenix's enterprise business would require every skill I had developed over 9 years of relationship management, plus innovative approaches to restoring damaged trust and demonstrating renewed commitment to strategic partnerships. Tyler Davidson had spent 6 weeks proving that systematic efficiency couldn't replace human expertise in enterprise software relationships. Now I had the opportunity to prove that personalized strategic partnerships weren't just valuable. They were irreplaceable. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.